Brad, let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Once again, for the benefit of our YouTube crowd, little reminder, 2020 Fantasy Football Almanac and Draft Guide, math-driven sleepers, vetted, math-driven risk players. Look, it's easy to not really screw yourself in the first 2 to 3 rounds of the fantasy football draft, or it should be easy. But what are you doing in the middle and the late rounds? That's where the leagues are won, and that's what my guide does better than any other guide out there. Better draft tiers, better draft strategy, and free updates all season long. And if you're worried about the 2020 season being played, once again, for anybody that buys the book and signs up for the free updates, if the NFL season's canceled, I'll give you the 2021 version via PDF for free. That's my guarantee to you. So everybody check that out. You can see it in the link below. Philadelphia Eagles, Brad. Interesting team last year. You remember, I mean, it seems like ages ago, but you remember last year, like, their entire wide receiver core got hurt. I mean, all of them. You had Alshon Jeffrey out. You had DeSean Jackson out.
It was bad. It was terrible for them. It's like a plague came down.
There was
bad choice of words.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, right.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no. There was a Monday night game where they played Atlanta. I think they lost that game barely, and they didn't have Zach Ertz in that game either. Like, literally, they had like Greg Ward, some rookie receiver from a Division 5A school, and maybe Alshon Jeffrey. I'm sorry. Who's the other one? Aguilar. This team found an identity throughout the year. You talk about like forged in the fire. This Eagles team, they open up the season, right, when they were the one game that they were full strength. Open up the season, and they have an awful first half against Washington, then go off in the second half, and they put up like 30, 40 points somewhere in that area. It really in one half of football. And then DeSean Jackson gets hurt because he's getting older, has an abdominal issue, never is right for the rest of the year. Alshon Jeffrey, he's a slow receiver. He's not getting any separation, but he goes down. And so Philadelphia for weeks just didn't have any weapons, and they had to basically figure out how to push some stuff together. Now, their defense is always strong. They have a good organization. Obviously, they're only a couple of years removed from a Super Bowl. But it's like the weirdest thing. And then over time, they started winning games just basically throwing the ball to their tight ends. They couldn't get anything down the field because the receivers were hurt. So they were winning the ball by running, and basically they were playing like 10 yards and in football, and they were winning games. And so by the end of the year, like, for me, they were the easiest bet in football because it's like, well, they get another receiver back in the depth chart. Okay, maybe they can go 15 yards down the field now. They're going to win. And it wasn't a shock to me that they ended up winning the division at the end of the year. But what do you think about them this season, Brad? The Philadelphia Eagles, Alshon Jeffrey's back, DeSean Jackson's back. They have Jalen Reagor, rookie receiver, who I know you're not really that big of a fan of, and with the limited minicamp time, me neither.
Okay. Rookie wide receiver. It's not that I'm not a big fan of them, but I just don't like them as your number 1 or 2. If they right, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You have a young, fresh guy with fresh legs that can just beat everyone down the field and is eager to learn. Like, cool, man. Yep. If he's your 3 and 4, I'm all about it. Right? Talent is talent, but not as your number 1. Yeah. I've seen that before, and that's a terrible strategy. Dude, Philly healthy. I think they're as good as any other team. I really do.
They haven't been healthy in a while, and then
they haven't.
And then
it's
Carson
been a few
Wentz,
years, hasn't it?
Yeah, Carson Wentz. I don't know what the deal is, but every playoff season he's like injured. He goes out and gives us like about 5 minutes in the playoffs, and then gets a concussion, and then Josh McCown. Look, if Carson Wentz was healthy in that game, they beat. Gosh, I can't even remember who they lost to. Who was that?
Was it playoffs?
It was playoffs. It wasn't the Bears. That was
Seattle.
2 years ago.
Seattle beat somebody to go to Green Bay. Who'd they beat?
That could have been it. Gosh,
okay, I forget too.
Forgive us, man. It's just like this year has been so weird. Usually I can remember that stuff off the top of my head. But
Carson Wentz's rookie year, I think it was week 1. I was at the bar and I was watching him, and then he made this play where he eluded a couple guys and threw a strike. It was really awesome. And I noticed, like, this guy's enormous. Like, this guy's made for the league. And I texted my buddy, like, I love Carson Wentz. He's going to be awesome. And I'm still not going back on that. I think he could be potentially one of the best quarterbacks in the game. But the past couple of years, he can't stay on the field.
He cannot.
And also he gets backlash from his teammates. Look, and I don't know what that's about. Hopefully that rectifies itself. But
by the way, the Eagles, I just looked it up. The Eagles lost to the Saints 20-14 without Carson Wentz. And then the Saints got bounced the next week by Minnesota in convincing fashion, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Was it convincing?
I believe so. I believe it was. Again, we're talking about.
I remember them going back and forth. Didn't they go back and forth with that backup quarterback the Saints have? Remember that
No.
guy?
Breeze was back by then. I'm trying to find the Saints here since
Yeah,
we're
but
on
they
that
would
tangent.
sub him in. Who's that? Remember that game where they're back
Taysom
up?
Hill.
Yeah, he was just going nuts. Like every play was producing like 30 yards. It was magic in a bottle. Was that the playoffs?
I don't recall. I'm finding it now, trying to see how much they lost. I remember Minnesota, like Kirk Cousins stepped up in that game. I remember that he hit
He
Thielen down
did.
the
He
field.
did. He did.
That might
Yeah,
have been a
he hit.
closer game. Now that I think about it.
I think it was. I think they won by a touchdown, maybe, because I think finally, what's his name? Smothers Brothers, Kirk Cousins there, finally like made the play, right? When the play needed to be made. And I think
No, I'm full of crap. Let
you are
me
full
go
of
back.
crap.
I'm full of
That
crap.
was a close game.
Philadelphia Eagles. I was looking at I pulled up the wrong year. They lost to the Eagles. They lost to the Saints a couple years ago, and that was with Nick Foles at quarterback. I don't know where, because Carson Wentz just doesn't play in playoff games, unfortunately.
Yeah, he can't do it. I mean, that statue outside of the Eagles stadium, where they called that special play in the Super Bowl, that statue is of Nick Foles, is it not?
I don't know. I don't
Nick
know what you're
Foles
talking
has a
about.
statue outside of the Eagles stadium. I'm
That's
Googling
awkward.
it.
That's awkward.
That's so weird. Boy, that guy.
Why is it so difficult for Google to put the games in order? Okay, so you were right, Brad. The Eagles lost to the Seahawks 17-9 last season. That's what it was. And now I got to go back and right the ship for the Saints to figure out what was the score in that game, since we're on that tangent. Pro Football Reference. Thank you, Pro Football Reference, for being able to put your schedule together. Like, Google puts these things in blocks. They don't put the games in order. It's so stupid. Google. Who's Google anyway? What are they to us? All right. So the Saints.
They're trash.
They are trash. Pure trash. The Saints lost. Come on. My computer is not being cool. You're right. That game did go back and forth, and the Vikings won in overtime. 26-20.
Yeah, and I think what's his name there? Kirk made the play.
Yeah.
He hit a bomb or something.
To Thielen, which is funny because like earlier that year he missed that exact scenario, and Thielen came out and called him out in the press, and so he came out in the playoffs when everybody says Kirk. Anyway, this is an Eagles segment. So sorry for that tangent there, but back to the Eagles. So look, man, this team could win throwing two tight end. I think we're going to see a lot of two tight end because Dallas Goedert's good, who just got sucker punched the other day, and some press charges and all that guy in South Dakota is weird. But you got Ertz and you got Goedert, two of the better tight ends in the league for sure. Now you have DeSean Jackson hopefully back, which people are really snoozing on him, and I think that's fair.
I love me some DeSean Jackson, dog. Damn, that guy's like a rap song come to life. Is he not, dude? That guy's got the most swag catching a pass I've ever seen.
I know.
God damn, I love me DeSean.
And he's still so fast. Hopefully he can stay healthy.
So good.
I'm telling you,
He's
with just those two tight ends and DeSean Jackson, I think this team could make some noise. But then you have the younger receiver who we were just talking about. You have these other receivers like Greg Ward, for example, that nobody's really talking about there. These guys that really provided depth last year and grew under this team as they were finding an identity back in 2019. And you still have Miles Sanders and Carson Wentz. So if I'm the Eagles, I just bench Carson Wentz in weeks 15, 16, and 17 so that he can play a playoff game. I think that's the key.
Yeah, no kidding.
If Carson Wentz were healthy, they would have gone on more deep playoff runs. I think Eagles fans would agree with that. For Eagles fans' sake, I hope Carson Wentz plays well. I'm looking, they had some cap casualties. There's some pieces on defense that they're going to have to plug back in, but they have a good coaching staff. I think this is a team. I think this is probably my favorite team in the division. Let me hit you with the over-under, Brad. Bet online. 9.5 wins for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm going to go over.
Yeah, I'm over as well. I think that this is – we'll see what happens with Wentz. But like I said, if they're winning games last year with Miles Sanders and two tight ends, when they have their full stable in and they have more depth this year because of the growth, like I was saying before, I think this is a team that's going to win 10 games. I just think they're going to win 10 games. I think their ceiling is probably 12-4 if they can stay healthy, but that's a big if. Especially this year with the weird, the oddity and the quarantine rules and all that stuff.